is Catalina, and I will be your moderator tech for this breakout session. You also have Ebony who will be joining us. I'm just excited to have you here with us and excited to have the session. All attendees have been muted, so we ask you to put your questions in the chat or at the end of the presentation, if time allows. Both Deacon Wilson and Dr. Curry will answer your questions. We're here to help you, support you. Make sure you leave here with your questions answered, and just excited to go ahead and turn it over to our first presenter, Deacon Wilson.
All right, good morning, everybody. I want to thank all of you for having me in CSAC, and it's exciting what we're trying to do here. Just a little information about us as a community-based organization and how we think we can help with this whole conversation around additional financial aid. I'm looking more at the front end with the FAFSA here and the DREAM Act application, and something we have a lot of experience with. Well, first of all, who are we? We're West Angeles Education Richmond program. We're a community-based and faith-based organization. I have to say that though, way more community-based these days. 92% of our participants are not members of West Angeles Church, and actually over the pandemic growing. So we certainly are thankful for our support from our Bishop, Charles Blake, and our pastor. We serve over 800 families with information and services around the college access process, college affordability, and financial aid, and other stuff too, but we're on topic for what we're going to do today. I'll show you. Here's some of our major programs, just to let you know. We have a Summer Bridge program where we help students with their math and their science and their writing before they get to the courses in the fall. We call it helping them to cheat for next year. We're giving them early advice on how to do their coursework. This year, it's much more of a challenge because there's a lot of educational damage coming out of the pandemic. As you all know, the math scores were abhorrent come post-pandemic, and we're gearing up for that right now. We'll be in 2 locations, Lakewood and LA. Homework Club, it's now virtual. It's going to be in person soon. We do parent educational advocacy. We help parents find schools and deal with the choice system for LA Unified and other school districts. We do career enrichment programs. We're interested in that. And for the subject we're here today about, college access, financial aid, and affordability support. That means application support, the FAFSA DREAM Act completion support, and the Cal Grant support. We'll certainly talk about that today in great detail. Well, in a minute, in good detail of what we do there. We do SAT prep through our partnership with Princeton Review. I'm a certified, they call me a Jedi Knight because I train teachers, and I also do SAT prep myself. Been doing it for 10 years. Community college information, presentation sessions, and touring we do. We're interested in connecting students with campuses at all levels. Good to see Dr. Curry here. He'll be up next. We really think that still, even now, that the 2-year colleges are underrated as being extremely important components. I don't know why we underrate them so much, but they're very necessary in this whole discussion of affordability, college, et cetera. I'm sure he's going to talk about that. College and career, we're going to talk about. We also do as a program. So here's some of the problems with completing the FAFSA. Again, I'm trying to give you, it's just to help your thought process. If you're an educational provider and want to start helping students and alerting them to do their FAFSA, I'm going to show you the problems. I'm not going to leave you with those. I'm going to suggest ways we can help with this whole discussion, and we're ready to expand to help more. That's why we're so excited about this. Here's some of the problems. These are not user-friendly forms or processes. It is not. I know they've done a lot of work on it. Every administration comes in and makes their changes, and I kind of chuckle. I was talking to Nanette Badagon's office over here. I said, here I am again this year. And they said, oh, I know why you're calling. What's the problem with the FAFSA? We just haven't got it down to being a user-friendly process. We made changes we thought made it better, but it made it worse. I'm not going to hold out hope that that will get better in the near future, but we'll see. There is lots of misunderstanding of tax return filing requirements and other FAFSA related issues. It should be one L there. It's funny how I noticed that being an Richmond person, but you get the point. There's filing requirement misunderstanding, which leads to this. The forms are not compatible with real family situations. On the filing thing, that's the one where you're filing a FAFSA, you're filing a FAFSA on income you got 2 years ago. And a lot of people have a lot of struggle with that and fill it out wrong. I see that a lot in people who have not used our services, but are coming to us late, not able to get money. The problems with about all these I find out about after the fact. That's why I know there are problems. People who come to us don't have those issues. You'll see why in a minute. The problems with and maybe perhaps you'll be able to help them with it a lot in your schools by getting in front of some of these. The problems with the FAFSA are not equity driven. Everybody acts like they're equity driven and there's some kind of equity issue. And it's not an equity issue. I'm sorry. When we try to treat it that way and act that way, it gets kind of political. Let's not make this political. Remember, it's about the kids. When you go to politics, you've forgotten the children. And that's what's happening so often in our discussions. The problems are class driven and knowledge driven. Because when I see Black, Hispanic, inner city Asian families, etc., they just don't know. It doesn't matter the color. They don't know how to do it. It's a little class driven. The very wealthy get through it and figure it out, but it's very much class driven. And I'm depending on my producer out there, Ebony, she knows to give me any questions I might be getting. I'll get them at the end if not. Many financial aid officers think the FAFSA and DREAM Act forms are easier than they actually are. Any veteran financial aid person knows they're not. There's a lot of turnover right now. There's a lot of insensitivity, unwillingness to change due dates, because people don't understand what to do. A lot of you think you bring in someone from, maybe if you bring in from Dr. Curry's school is different, but they bring in a financial aid person from a 4-year school of repute, they'll just get someone who further confuses it many times. It's just not as easy. Some of them don't know, think it's really easy to do, and I marvel at that every year. Specific issues with which you'll run into when you're assisting families. I run into them all the time. I mitigate them and have learned to deal with each one of these issues. So any questions in these areas next year when you start doing this, just drop me a line. My phone numbers and everything's out there somewhere on the first view chart, and I'll show it at the end again. Foster and quasi-foster. We call quasi-foster situations where the person is not specifically registered with the county as a foster child. And all of you know that they get special consideration, many of you know, but I see a lot of quasi-fosters. Like, for example, a family has self-adopted a child and they're not living with their parents, they can be treated like a foster if you follow the FAFSA very carefully. And I think we miss a lot of good financial aid opportunities for students who are in homes they think make too much money, but they don't, because they're a foster. They're a foster, and when they turn 18, that family could kick them out. And listen, many times that's what happens. They're out there on the street. It's a sad, sad thing. We have one high school here in LA that I think it's 40% of the students are foster or quasi-foster. And so you're going to be trying to help them. The independent status FAFSA is very tricky to complete. There's an independent status question in there, and a lot of them struggle with that question. It's a very difficult thing, particularly when you're a quasi and you feel like everything's all right with funding, but your clock's running out. The federal tax return for 2 years before are just not filed. And that's an issue when a parent has not filed it. There are some loopholes that can get a student around that, but they're very specific. But usually this can shut a child down if you don't know how to guide them. People think the FAFSA is based on the year before the current year. We talked about that. It's not, it's 2 years before. So if they're entering in the fall of 2022, it's 2020's income for the parent that's being used. Lack of understanding, this is a big one. I like the way I was led to do this view graph. Lack of understanding of non-taxable income. People state to me, I have no income, but yet here they are standing right in front of me. Again, I know that they're eating and sleeping and have shelter some kind of way, and that way is relevant to probably finding out what the non-taxable income is. I said, oh yeah, I do have, county aid. Yes, I do have disability. Those things are all recorded on the FAFSA. If they're not there, they get into a verification situation. The student probably, unless they have a very alert financial aid officer at the school, as I told you before, they may not, they won't get any financial aid, and they won't be able to go to school. These are all issues, specific issues with dealing with families. Of course, Dream Act applicants, I have a lot of trouble with the parents that are afraid of being discovered by ICE. No matter what we think about that situation, it's horrible, but we can't fix that. We're not DC, we can't fix it. They're fighting in DC, we can't fix it. But the issue is getting them recorded on that Dream Act form and getting them over that fear. I haven't got a lot of those this year, but had a lot of them in previous years. I don't know where they've gone. Maybe they didn't not going to school this year. Who knows? How can we help? Well, we filed over 2,000 FAFSAs in 10 years. We're trained and retrained by the Department of Education, DC. In fact, I'm going to go back there. I'm going back there this week for my yearly update. They do it months in advance for the next year, just to make sure I'm hitting all the bases. I've retrained a lot of my workers. I'll be retraining more, and we'll do it if I'd have to help with FAFSAs and to do FAFSA preparation sessions. Now, I know Cash for College does it, but I'm not so sure that they'll hit all the bases that are needed or whether people will make it to those. I certainly support that as an approach, but we're standing by ready to help too. If there's sufficient demand, we'd like to train school staffs on how to complete a FAFSA so they can feel it a little bit and can guide people a little better if we're really serious about this change. I think it's a great proposal the way I understand it. We would like to offer resources too and answer FAFSA questions. We'd like to be a resource. Want to call us up, get in touch with us, that's great. I'll show you my contact information again. Note that the federal FAFSA phone line will only talk to the students and not the helpers or preparers. That is a significant, we're so busy talking about equity, and I hear at all levels, but this is a very simple change they can make. I mean, if I'm calling in for a student, talk to me. That would be great. I've told Nanette Battergon that, who's my representative, and I'll tell anybody who's prepared to listen. But this is an issue. You tell them just call the number and get help, but they may come back to you not able to get help because on the phone, there's limited things a person can show them and do. And the people on the phone are contractors. They're not really federal government employees. And some of them are out of the country. They're in Canada. That's another whole problem I don't want to get into right now. I've done a video on it if you're interested. So once again, there's my information. You see it all there, and I'm sure that they'll make the slide deck available to you. And you can see my email address is there at West A, and my website where you can find out all about my program. Get in touch with me there. We have a video channel as well where we do a lot of training. There's all my phone numbers there. Even my cell is there. That's how much I want to help our students to get money to go to schools like Dr. Curry's. And I think he's going to tell you some things too that will make you quite happy. You won't see another president of any two-year college I know of. Forget that, any college that's more interested in that. So with that, I'm done. If anyone has any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, okay? Is there any questions? I'll be ready to answer those.
Thank you, Deacon Wilson. That's I'm looking and I don't see any questions yet, but maybe we'll wait until after Dr. Curry also shares and then go from there.
Yeah,
So
I'll be
please,
here. I'll be ready.
Please, thank you. And I just want to say thank you for your leadership. And I think we were so excited to have you present because so many don't think about the other partnerships available. They see all this work and it's all on me. And it's like, no, there's other opportunities for collaboration and support. So just thank you for your leadership. All right, we're going to go ahead and Ebony's going to share Dr. Curry's slide. We are so excited to have Dr. Curry join us in his beyond busy schedule, being the president CEO of Compton College. So just excited to have you here with us. Dr. Curry, you do, anytime we reach out to you, can you do a presentation? I'm there. When it's a college affordability, funding for students, he's there, he makes the time. So just thank you so much, Dr. Curry, for being here. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And I know Ebony is getting the display together so you can be able to see the slides as a PowerPoint. But I want to say, first of all, thank you to Catalina for your leadership with the Student Aid Commission and the work the Student Aid Commission is doing. Thank you to Deacon Wilson for your leadership as well. I just want to say thank you because a lot of times in this work, we don't thank the individuals who are doing this work. And this work is not easy. And I'm going to talk about why it's not easy in my PowerPoint today once it comes back up. Catalina, I'm sorry, Ebony, I'm ready.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Okay, while Ebony pulls up the PowerPoint, Deacon Wilson, we did get one question, and then we'll just do this one, and then we'll wait for the end of the session.
That's
It
all
says, Deacon Wilson, where can we get more information on federal financial aid trainings?
And the answer won't be terribly pleasing. It's in DC. I've checked, there's no regional training, and that means it takes money to get there. However, there are videos. I will link, I'll send the link to the videos that they have there that will help you and show you. I think they still show you how to register as an organization there, but I think they took that down. So I'll share it in the chat really quickly in a minute.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll go and look for it.
Okay, we're good to go.
Got it. So I just want to, so today I want to talk about partnerships with educators, specifically looking at increasing financial aid. And I have a lot of slides, about 17, but I include a lot of information because for me, it's not about what I speak about today. It's more so about the hyperlinks. So you're able to go back and look at how do we do this work. Next slide. I always start my presentations with the Compton College has a great story to tell. And this was Michelle Obama on May 1st, 2019, talking about Compton College. And she talked about this great story. Compton College is the 114th California Community College. And we were accredited on June 7th, 2017. But the history of Compton College is so fascinating as it relates to our accreditation being revoked in 2006 and now being fully accredited as a college under the Compton Community College District Board of Trustees. It's a fascinating story. One day they probably have a movie and documentaries about it, but it's really fascinating about the transformation that's happened at Compton College. Next slide. I think it's important as we think about partnerships and engaging individuals in the work that we do is really looking at who do we serve. So for me, I always want to make sure people know that we service several communities, city of Compton, Linwood, and Paramount, and then portions of Athens, Bellflower, Carson, and Downey. So we're serving a large population of individuals of color, and you get to see in a sense of who we're working with. At Compton College, we have implemented this guided pathways mantra regards to students completing their degree or certificate in a timely manner. So we offer 41 certificate programs and 42 degree programs. We have 6,658 students for last year. We have had a significant decline in enrollment, and that's important to share as well. Next slide. Yeah, now we got it. Next slide. Compton College, we have about 456 degree awarded in 2020, 2021. Certificates took a decline, and we attribute that to the COVID-19 and individuals who were in the career technical area not coming back to school due to COVID. And then also the social degree for transfer, we had 184 students complete that. You get a sense of our most popular majors and also certificate programs, which are on this slide as well. Next slide. Just give you a sense of our budget, $65 million. We have 405 full-time faculty and part-time faculty, but that gives you a sense of our numbers. We service 307,227 individuals, residents within our district. Next slide. I want to spend a little bit of time here just to give you a sense of the enrollment decline. If you look at 2015-16 to now, you see the enrollment decline about 6,000 students. And as most people know, especially in the K12 arena, is that the enrollment decline is not just at the community college, it's also the K12 districts as well. And K12 districts throughout the state are having decline as well. And so it's very important that we work together as we try to manage the enrollment decline within K12 and also community college. And that's why I'm a firm believer in dual enrollment partnerships with our K12 districts. You get a sense of our numbers as of April 18th, where we're at for Compton. For this spring, we have a 24% decline in comparison to a year ago. So it's troubling times, but also look at it as opportunity as well. Next step. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about partnerships, and I'm going to get into the financial aid pieces towards the end. Next slide. We have a wide variety of partnerships, and I think it's important for our partners to know it's not just about having partnerships regards to basic needs. It's about having partnerships throughout your organization that focus in on your student success. So, for example, we have a partnership with Every Table where we're providing free meals to students on campus, but they also are our cafeteria provider. We have a partnership with Believe in Students where we provide the emergency aid by the faculty to students for our students. We have a partnership with College Future Foundation, which is a grant as relates to our guided pathways implementation. We have a partnership with the Kresge Foundation regards to being a part of Achieving the Dream, but also as it relates to our teaching and learning work that we do with our students. We have a partnership with Coalition for Responsibility Community Development, which is our housing program. We're providing housing grants to our students. Next slide. We have partnership with Linwood Unified, Compton Unified, and also Paramount Unified School District, which is very important. But we also have partnership with our four-year colleges as well, UC Irvine and also California State University, Dominguez Hills. So just to give you a sense is that we're working with a lot of people in order to support our students as it relates to student success. Next slide. So why is this important? When you look at the work that we're doing, we cannot do this alone anymore. A couple years ago, I heard former Secretary of Education John King talk about basic needs, and his analysis was so good. I use this in speeches. He talked about if you have a student who's in the algebra class and they're worried about their meal that night, they're not going to do their math work, and so we have to make sure that we establish these partnerships where we support the student as a holistically. We can't just look at the colleges being support the student just because they're taking our classes. We have to be able to address basic needs, but we also need to be able to address other needs that they might have, including mental health and also transportation. But we have to be creative in that type of work and also in that type of space. Next slide. So now, what does that mean, community college partnerships for affordability? What does this mean? Next slide. So we have an enormous amount of partnerships with our K12 districts. From our dual enrollment, we're providing classes for regular K to 12 students, mostly 9 through 12 are taking our classes. We offer afternoon classes at the high schools. We offer early college partnership with Compton Unified School District, which is a middle college model. We have AB 288 agreements where we're offering classes throughout the day at our partnership schools in Compton, Linwood, and Paramount. And then we have a special partnership with the California Academy for Math and Science as relates to our instructional services agreements for Project Lead the Way. Next slide. And we also have a College Promise program, which is a whole nother conversation. But Oliver W. Connor was a community member from Linwood who passed away. We did not know about his will, and he actually left his will to the college. So this has helped to fund our College Promise program. There's a fascinating story about this Oliver W. Connor in Inside Higher Ed, and I will drop it in the chat once I'm done speaking. But it's very fascinating how that happened, where we're providing 2 years of free college for our students from our partnership schools. Next slide. And these are some of the benefits of that partnership regards to what we're providing for our students. Next slide. So as I get to this, I think what's important when we talk about partnerships is we got to start sharing data. And why is this important? Because if you are working with students regards to financial aid and knowing students' affordability, who's on free and reduced lunch, it's a lot easier if you have data from your K-12 districts. So for us, we have data sharing agreements with Compton Unified, Linwood, and Paramount Unified School District, where we're sharing data we can share data regards to student success, but also they're sharing data with us regards to potential students and how we follow up with those students. And we have all that outlined in our data sharing agreements. So when you get a copy of this presentation, you can open up and you see the data sharing agreements. They go through 2024. And then our new data sharing agreement, which is the one I'm most excited about, is with the LA County and CalFresh. And this is our data sharing agreement where our students complete a waiver and we're able to share their data with the LA County Department of Public Social Services regards to CalFresh. And we can find out who's on CalFresh based off of who submit their waiver and who is not. And then if they're not on CalFresh, and then we have a staff person full-time who's responsible for CalFresh work, this person is following up with the students who are not. So we just started this data sharing agreement this year. We did our first data transfer in December, and we started working with the students, and we got our analysis back in February. In less than a month, we had a 10% increase in CalFresh participants. And that's one of the things that we're really excited about as well. Next slide. So it's not just about the data pieces. When I look at the expanding partnerships and addressing affordability, some of the recommendations I would put out there to you is that, one, we have to work together in support of student success. What does that mean? That means if the K-12 is having a high school financial aid workshop, is to include the community college, but also to make sure that all your students from your local high schools and your partner community college are included on their FAFSA application, regardless if they're going to a four-year college. They put that local community college on their application so they're able to share data. Here's the thing that I learned a couple of weeks ago meeting with my financial aid staff, is that we know based off students' financial aid application, even if they didn't do an application for the college, we know who submitted a FAFSA form, and then we can do direct contact with them as it relates to recruitment. And that connects to my earlier slide regards to enrollment. But if we're working together and having these conversations, we can be able to do more as it relates to our students and to ensure that they complete their financial aid application in a timely manner. Support implementation of legislation to address student affordability. I'm all in on the work that's being done by the California Student Aid Commission regards to legislation and supporting student affordability. We have to all be all in. We can no longer sit on the sideline and say, oh, let's see what happens with the legislation. No, we have to support the California Student Aid Commission and the work that they're doing as it relates to affordability. And we can no longer sit on the sideline. And we have to tell our stories about our students. Why is this important? Because our student stories are part of our advocacy in support of student success. I always go back when I think about Compton College, I think about our success stories. I think about a student, his name was Terrence Stewart, who ended up at UC Riverside, and he figured it out of how, one, to complete at Compton, but also to go to UC Riverside and get a master's degree. But what he did was he understood his financial aid, and he understood how to maximize all the dollars in financial aid. I think it's important that we establish partnership with our local agencies for current and also dual enrollment. So it's important, like I mentioned, about the county agency with DPSS, but there's more ways we can expand those services for students who are maybe not attending our local high schools. What other services can we provide for students in regards to financial aid? And one of the things that I've been working on and I've been thinking a lot about was looking at the census data and really going with the census data and following up with the individuals who are adults within your community and talking about, do they have students within their household, potential students who need financial assistance? Because we do have some students who are maybe not going, they might be going to a charter school, might be being homeschooled, but how can we give them information about financial aid? And one of the ways we want to do that is through the U.S. Census data and be able to do some follow-up with those potential students, but working through the adults. Develop partnership with local community-based agencies. One of these that we did at Compton this year, we hired a student service advisor who's responsible for Black and male color recruitment. And one of these that this person will be doing is work with the faith-based organizations to be able to link the work that we're doing in our college regards to student enrollment, but also about financial aid, making sure that we're providing financial aid workshops within our local community-based organizations. Because one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that we have to be able to connect with community-based organizations and provide these services, because I think they're being left out of the work, especially within our community, but being more intentional. And so by having this staff person whose full-time responsibility is that, I think will be helpful for our organization. But colleges need to be working with our K-12 districts, but also community-based organizations. And the final piece I would say, as we talk about this topic, is how do we continue discussion to address the total cost of attendance for higher education? We can no longer look at just student fees. We have to look at the whole student and total cost, but really continue these conversations. And the way we do that is about telling our student story, as I mentioned earlier, but we have to focus on these conversations about the total cost of attendance and what our students are dealing with. I talk to students all the time. Yesterday, I had a student forum with our students, and I was just listening to their concerns. 80% of the concerns are related to financial aid. So we have to make sure that students are receiving financial aid in a timely manner, but it starts at the beginning of the conversation, working with our K-12 district. We can no longer wait for a student to come to our campus and fill out a financial aid application, because most of our students who are coming to our campus who are filling out an application for financial aid on that first day need the money right then. So we have to do more work on the front end, and that goes into our partnerships with our local K-12 districts. And next slide. And I'm open for questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Curry. We're going to go ahead and see what questions we have. Please feel free to use the chat, or you could go ahead and unmute yourself as well. We're a small enough group, we could do that as well, but we want to make sure you get good questions answered. about some of the amazing work both of our leaders here today are doing in their communities. So we'll go ahead and take any questions in the chat. I have a few, but I want to wait, give others opportunity to ask. Don't see any questions or any raised. Okay, so I do have one. Do you think this would work for out-of-state schools that recruit in California? So I think Dr. Curry, that's probably for you.
Yeah, I do think that. I think the out-of-state schools. So let me take this. Let me say this another way. If you haven't been watching Arizona State and the work that they're doing in California, they're really investing a lot of time and effort in California to attract our students. And so I think more of the out-of-state colleges will be building partnerships with our K-12 districts, but also I think the HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, will be doing that as well. And so this is another, I see them being more involved in recruitment in California, but also about financial aid. Because the key with the recruitment in California is making sure that students are checking off their institution as a part of their financial aid application. And so they're going to be more involved in this conversation.
Definitely.
I think I was going to say, Christina put in the chat about AB 4469. Yes, that is a significant bill. And as you look at in my PowerPoint, I talk about legislation. Yes, that is critical.
Okay. And I think, Doctor, can you talk a little bit about what you've done and that to combat ensuring? It's almost like you have your own AB 469 at Compton College. I feel like I probably wouldn't find a student that did not do their FAFSA. You have such high number of students applying and support. Can you maybe share one or two best practices? Because not everybody here is at a community college, but if they're in K-12 and they have community college partners, they can share those best practices with their partners, because you really do a great job of ensuring your students leave no money on the table.
When I look at the FAFSA, I look at our K-12 districts. Our K-12 districts, especially Compton Unified School District, is adamant about students completing their financial aid application. So it's our partnership with our K-12 districts, and they take the lead on that, and they invite our school financial aid department to participate. But now we want to be more aggressive. I think it's for us, when you start looking at enrollment decline, one of the areas that you have to address is financial aid. Right? You have to make sure students are maximizing all their financial aid, but if they don't have a FAFSA on file, that's where your problems begin. And so now with our data sharing agreements, we can begin to get some data from them regards to where the students are headed. Did they apply for financial aid? We get more information from them regards to their student population, and then with that data guide the conversations. And that's why I put out there with the data sharing agreements. I think every community college and K-12 district partner needs to have data sharing agreements. You need to, because what's happens in this conversation is that you're talking about we're doing all this great work, but then you don't get the data and you can't follow up. And so in our data sharing agreement, just to give you an example, we get the National Student Clearinghouse data from our K-12 districts. So one of the things that we're working on is we're following up with students who graduated from the K-12 district over the last 3 years, but who were not enrolled in higher education this last fall semester. And now we're reaching out to those students. So these are students who graduated from K-12 districts. And now we're reaching out to those individuals to register at Compton, but also to give them information about financial aid.
That's awesome. I know you're one of the leaders of the data sharing with your K-12. I want to go ahead and ask you the next question, but I am going to go ahead and drop in regards to the question about out-of-state schools. WACAC, the Western Association for College Admission Counseling, is a great resource to connect with schools, not just in California, colleges, universities, but outside of California. They also participate with the RAC group, the Regional Admissions Counseling Group. And that's my go-to for all things Western United States college admissions counseling. And if you're a public high school counselor, your association fees are free. So I put that link in the chat. If you're a public school counselor on this meeting, please go there, claim your free membership to WACAC so you can be on the listserv, get in communication, get in contacts. And that's kind of another way to look for schools outside. So Dr. Curry, this next question is for you. How do you get your UC and CSU folks to partner with your college with your community college, specifically with financial aid application completion? And I would even say college applications for transfers.
I think it goes back to relationships. People don't understand and value relationships as much as I do. And I think it's relationships. So our K-12 partners and our community college and our four-year partners, we're always in some type of conversation or dialogue. And so it's about communication and always been in conversation with our partners. And it just happens fluidly from my perspective, where individuals are in conversations about some different partnerships as relates to not only financial aid, but also dual enrollment, guided pathways, and program maps for students. But we have to have ongoing conversations with our K-12 and our four-year college and universities. But it goes back to relationships. You can't expect Cal State University Dominguez Hills just because you call, they're going to be available. It goes back to relationships and making sure that you're building a relationship, and then you also maintain that relationship as well. So for me at Compton College, and I say me on this, is that I'm lucky because California State University Dominguez Hills president, Thomas Parham, we work together at UC Irvine. So we have a great relationship. And then I also used to work at University of California, Irvine. And so the Center for Educational Partnership, who does all the partnership work, I used to be their director of early academic outreach program. So I'm lucky because those organizations I have relationships with, and we're able to do more. But I would tell you, my staff they're out there doing their job, but they're also building relationships as well. But we're always trying to figure out how we can be better at this. And one of these that I've learned over the years, the way you be better at this is by listening to your staff to understand what are challenges students are facing, but then also what are some of the technology that we can be able to utilize to be able to work with our students as ways to financial aid. And hopefully that makes sense, that last part.
No, definitely. And I think one thing, and I will go to Deacon Wilson because he wants to share some thoughts as well. One thing about you as well, Dr. Curry, is you're much more in the weeds as a community college president than most. And you are very, I mean, if I told you, Dr. Curry, can you help me do a FAFSA? I know you know how to do it right now. Like that's, I mean, you are that in the weeds, you identify the bears and you go after that. So I would encourage everyone here. Dr. Curry is a great resource, not to give him more work, but as a leader, if you're working with a community college that maybe is not so, what's going on? I mean, Dr. Curry is data driven. He knows his data. And I think that that's a true example of his leadership. Oh, thank you, Dr. Curry. See, he'll take the more work. I think people need to follow his lead because like I said, he's in the weeds with his teams and with the students and the families. So Deacon Wilson, please share. Thank you.
Yes, I think there's another side to this question. That was a great answer, Dr. Curry. Your relationship with UC, which I knew you knew, Brother Parham there over at, I figured by extrapolation you knew him because I knew you were at Irvine. You don't know I knew. But anyway, there's another side to this though that him and I probably know about. CSU and UC are very great organizations. Their financial aid people are going through a lot of transition right now, coming out of the pandemic, and may not be as open to be trained. And this is very difficult. I'm going to be very careful how I answer. So if you have students that have gotten into or will get into the CSU and have these FAFSA issues, there's no Dr. Curry. And so just remember, look at us as a community-based provider to help you. Look to put those CSUs on the spot to help make their deadlines and get those FAFSAs in. I'm concerned that there's not on the CSU and UC side, people like Dr. Parham and his associates with Irvine. As from my view, I see that as an issue. I see some students right now who don't even have a FAFSA file, but got into Berkeley. I got one student like that just came to me yesterday and got into Stanislaus and got into East Bay. This is an issue. I'm going to make sure we're real today. We need to get help to those students. I'm going to try to help those I know about, but keep an awareness of that's how important this is. So that's where I kind of took the question too.
No, I love it. Thank you. And you know what, we did get another question. And before I go to that question, Deacon Wells, I'd like to ask you a question. I think we have a lot of public school counselors, community-based organizations, higher education leaders here. And one of the things is, sometimes you got to go out there to look for partnerships, especially with our religious affiliations. I know I'm in Riverside County, and a lot of our Seventh-day Adventist churches they've asked me to come and present on a Sunday or at an event. Right. What do you suggest are our first steps, or how do we, is there a listserv? Is there some way we know who's engaged in this? They're doing more through their church, through their parish, etc. Where do we begin?
Hey, I keep a list of things right here on my board I would do if I had a clone. And one of them is to train churches and community-based organizations more it's a little bit of a funding issue for me. And although I have theoretically a lot of funding through our church, it's priority too. But if I knew there was a lot of willingness to get trained in these community-based, there's a lot of community-based organizations, Catalina, real quick, give me 30 seconds, are big on, and I know Dr. Curry's seen this, oh, we want to get them into college, get them in. All the attention's on get them in. But and a lot of people will say, follow FAFSA, that's their presentation. But as Dr. Curry knows, and that's, if you listen to him, that's what he was poking around at, and I poked at it real big. We've got to really get in there and get our hands on it and show these babies, at least I call them that, show them how to do their FAFSAs given their family situations. And no one's talking about that. And I want to do more of that. I would go to any church, anywhere. I told somebody from Redlands, I would come out pro bono to have FAFSA workshops. I told Congressman Barragan that here. We need to be doing it at that level. I'm talking to people on the CSAC committee about that a lot these days. To actually help them do it. I hope that is a good answer. I don't know. Maybe I didn't really answer. Maybe I raised this
No,
question.
just your willingness, and you're willing to give us your contact information. If someone has their own pastor or deacon that's would like to start something, they don't know where to begin. The fact that they can go to you would be awesome. So no, thank you. And I think we don't think to go to that, right? I remember there's a time CSUs they were going around to our churches on Saturdays or Sundays. Super Sundays. There you go. But it was informational, like what you said, Deacon Wilson. It wasn't like, let's get it done. Let's help you now. Okay.
I feel like if Compton College came to my church, it'd be different. I feel like there'd be somebody in this office saying, here's my card. That's the impression I get of. Maybe I'm not getting the right impression. I think
you got the right impression. I'm very adamant about this. And Catalina, there's a question in chat regards to how do students become aware of these partnerships? Look, we have so much communications with students, from emails to we post in my President CEO message. I include the information, what's on our website as well. But I would tell you the new thing that I'm real interested in is I'm interested in these nudges through text messages. And so one of the things that we've been really pushing, and there's a new study that's coming out about CalFresh, and we were nudging people with text messages. And that's going to be our new way of doing things over the next 2 years, is more text messages nudge rather than emails. Because students are actually they're checking their texts versus checking their email every single day. And so we're going to be doing more text messages nudge. And I'll send to Catalina once the study's released, regards to our CalFresh that can be shared, but it's very fascinating about the little nudge from a text message to students. And I think that's how we're going to move forward regards to communicate with our students. But then also too, the other thing I learned regards to communication, and we learned this during COVID. So we utilized Canvas for our online learning platform for students. And through Canvas, we were looking at our dual enrollment students, because when the COVID hit, we had students in dual enrollment. We didn't know they were not going online, right? We didn't know. We thought you had a laptop, you figured it out. But you know what? That to me was a problem. And so now we're able to do announcements through Canvas for students about events and resources that are available to them. And we're able to post them on Canvas, and students will see that right when they're opening their Canvas. The second thing too is we have our student services departments have in Canvas information for students. So it's basically like a class, but it's set up through Canvas, so they can get information on financial aid. So if you have a dual enrollment student, this stuff is going to pick up for them as well, so they can see all the resources while they're in high school. But to me, we have to be more creative about this. We can't expect students to know about our partnerships or financial aid because you put a flyer out there, right? Everybody think a flyer is going to do things. It doesn't. We have to look at, what are our students looking at? TikTok, TikTok, Twitter, right? Instagram. We have to go to them. So we have a new contract for TikTok. We got a new thing, which, I'm giving y'all all my things right now. I got a new thing next week. I'm doing a recording. We're doing robocalls, right? So if you think about like election season, what happens? People are doing robocalls to individuals. So guess what? Compton College has a whole robocalls campaign that we're going to start doing robocalls. And based off this conversation today, I'm going to make sure we do a robocall that includes, don't forget about your financial aid. This is also the potential students and also current students, but really looking at new innovative ways due to COVID to reach out, utilizing Canvas, your LMS software, nudges, text messages, utilizing social media to reach out to students and let them know about partnerships and also about financial aid. And then also the new one is the robocalls, being able to do robocalls. We have to do what these for-profit colleges have been able to do to be able to get Black and brown students. Let me say this again. We have to do what these for-profit colleges have been able to do to be able to recruit Black and brown students. We have to think differently. And so those little tidbits I gave you are critical. The nudges is out there. I think that's the way to do it, through text messages. But I'm excited about this robocall idea, because you can look, and the thing with the robocalls, just to put out there, I'm leaving it alone after this, having your staff do the calls. So I'm doing some calls with the robocall. We have some faculty doing it. And now what I'm gonna do is make sure our financial aid staff, their staff members are doing the robocalls. So then when the students call or interact with them, they know that voice. So that builds a more of a connection. But we have to think differently. We can't expect flyers to do it.
Yeah. Well, I would say before we go, Deacon Wilson, I want to share one thing, Dr. Curry, I want to mention is when you say about the flyer doesn't work, one thing that you do is when you do robocalls or you do outreach, you're very intentional. It's like you have a tiered system of support where you do the tier 1, everyone gets this, but then you run the data to see who's not claiming this. And then you go after just that group, and you'll do like outreach just to the 10 or 15 kids that did not claim this. And that's what I think the difference is there. You tier it to, that's like in the spirit of equity, that's what you do. And I think that's another model to talk about. You're very data driven on what your students are accessing and all the resources as well. You keep track of all of it.
So what I'm going to do, Catalina, thank you for saying that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drop in the chat our institutional set goals for the college, which talks about in every area where students will be. I'm dropping in the chat so you can see that everything that we look at Compton is based off of racial equity. So we're breaking down groups, and you can see where African Americans are at in the group. You can see all the data, but you can see it broken down by different groups. And I'm adding to that as well. I want to add the LGBTQ in there. I want to add the formerly incarcerated students in there. I want to start doing more of these subgroups so you'll be able to see where these students are at. Now, and also like who's applying for financial aid, who's not on financial aid, who's on CalFresh. So we're breaking all this down so we can be, as Catalina mentioned, more intentional, because we cannot just throw a net and hope for our students going to like get these services.
Okay, please, Deacon Wilson. Yes, thank you. Oh, you're on mute, Deacon Wilson.
I know time's important here. So for Christina, about payback, the first part of your question, I think it's a motivation question. The second part is interesting. I'll try to do it in a quick, direct way, as I've thought a lot about it. We have an issue with students, though. There's a couple issues that concern me on two-year college and sometimes CSU, two-year college. It's usually two-year college, that students are sometimes getting all their Pell Grant money early, and they didn't need it all. And it's kind of hard to explain, but they're not keeping their classes and doing what they need to do. And then when they get to their third and fourth year of four-year college, there's no more Pell Grant money. That's if you have good counselors, they stay on that and keep you on track. Some schools don't let you register until you've talked to a counselor. That is a major issue. I think that's what you mean by payback, because in two-year college, it's not really a huge loan issue. But that's where I'm going to treat that. That is an issue. And we coach our students to make progress if they're getting a Pell Grant, and not take any more than that's needed, which is a little bit of a concern. I've seen the other side of it. It's a big problem. As for the question about, are we willing to share with African churches? Well, of course I am. And I've spoken to many churches, not only just Black churches. You'd be surprised where I've been to talk about it. Yeah, but I'm more than willing to go to Black churches as well. If they want to reach out to me, I'll be glad to do it pro bono. I think I've said that twice. So let me know about that. I'm sure that Dr. Curry would send someone from his financial aid office to discuss the opportunities generically around financial aid as well. Okay.
Oh, thank you. And I think to add to the question as well about not making sure students take out loans or unneeded debt. I mean, it really goes to just conversations we have to start earlier about financial literacy and college affordability and what's available. I have helped a student recently that was going to not go to school and pretty much had about $22,000 of financial aid to the UC Riverside and just didn't understand it. And what worried me more, not just that was enough, but what worried me was she's also was an IB diploma, dreamer, female, STEM, and we missed her. that was like, oh my, if we're missing her, she's already a diamond, being all those categories, and no one stopped to explain her financial aid package. And there's a part of me that thinks she's smart. She'll figure it out. She knows, they know, the AP kids know what to do. Not the AP kids in low income school districts, guys. They still need help. They still need Dr. Curry and Deacon Wilson. They need all of us still to help. So just something to think about as well. Okay, so I'm going and looking for additional questions. I don't see any others. I know we've got about 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure we maximize every moment. I did see the WACAC, and the WACAC piece, they will open up in July, I think June 1st. They'll open up again so you can claim your free membership as well. I do want to say, Dr. Gray, if you can share a little bit about, we're doing a lot of conversations around CalFresh. I'm going to drop that in the chat, a report that was done by the California Student Aid Commission about how many of our students, don't eat, don't have food, but yet they qualify for CalFresh. I think this is our next frontier, in addition to all the work we're doing with FAFSA completion, is ensuring every student that's eligible gets their meals from CalFresh. So can you share just maybe 1 or 2 tidbits of what you're doing with CalFresh while I drop in the report in the chat?
Yeah, so what we're doing, and I mentioned it briefly, regards to our data sharing agreement with the county for CalFresh. And one of the things that regards to CalFresh participation, but one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about was how do we work with our K12 districts regards to ensuring that students and their families who may qualify for CalFresh have information about that as well. But it's just changing the culture. For me, it was about hiring a full-time person to really focus on CalFresh. And I utilized the money from the state that they gave us for enrollment and retention dollars. We utilized those dollars to support this position. And so it's a position that we're going to make institutionalized with funding for that. But we have to have a full-time person. You can't assign CalFresh to another person's assignment. You need someone to really focus in on the CalFresh work, and we did that. So I'm really excited about our data sharing agreement, but I'm also excited that we have a staff person responsible for it. And we want to expand that work in our K-12 districts, and our staff person can be able to provide that service. And the county has trained our staff person on CalFresh and provided that person, our staff person, with presentations as well. So it's a joint partnership, but it also means that we have taken on ownership of it because we have a full-time staff member who's assigned to this work. And if we're looking at, and Deacon Wilson talked a little bit about financial aid at the 2-year colleges, and I really look at like emergency aid, and because we provide emergency aid to students who are enrolled in 1 unit. That's our policy. Our policy, if you're enrolled in 1 unit, you can be able to qualify for emergency aid at Compton College. That's it. And we have an application for that. And so, but it's being intentional about that, right? Understanding our student needs, but then also understand that we know how many applications students are filling out for emergency aid or help. So we have created a new application for all of our programs for when students need services and support. It's just one application for all the basic needs services and also for all the programs. But I think it's more being intentional. So when you look at CalFresh, it's about being intentional, having a partnership with the county, but also having a staff person to be able to do the work. And the third piece is really looking at how do you provide the resources to students on your campus where students are able, and the criteria is clear. For us, it's 1 unit. I'm not into the 5 unit. I'm not into 6 unit, not into 12 units, because all of our students have a need. And then we're creating our own barriers for students by creating another criteria for them to be able to get the service. And I think we have to understand that and understand what's happening to our students as it relates to the services that they need and the barriers that we create on our own. And hopefully that makes sense.
It does. No, it does. I think you gave definitely this group a lot to think about and a lot to consider as we wrap up. And thank you for dropping in all the resources in the chat and just being willing to be a thought partner in the future. I want to go ahead and let each of you have a chance to close out and give final thoughts, please. Go ahead. We'll start with you, Deacon Wilson. Any final thoughts, a message for our group here before we close out? And then I'll go ahead and let Dr. Curry say his final closing thoughts as well.
Nothing more, just have a great video channel that covers a lot of this, this whole area of cost. And some of these questions were unique to 4-year college, who gives you a financial aid award and you can't tell what you'll pay. And that's devastating. That's what I heard in your case study there, Catalina, that young lady. I wish I had known her so she'd know what she would owe and be prepared and could have dealt with it. That's a very tragic, and the word tragic is a little strong situation. So thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to hearing your requests for information.
Thank you, Dr. Curry.
And I would say it's important that we move from conversations to actions as relates to financial aid and affordability, and really working with our K12 partners, community college, and the four-year colleges and universities. We have to make sure that we're all together as thought partners, working together in support of students, but then also making sure that the community-based organizations are looped in as well. And I think that's critical, because it's going to take all of us together to really, when you start to look at enrollment declines in K12 and at the community college, financial aid will be critical for all of our students as we move forward over the next 10 years. So they'll be able to maximize their programs and services. So we have to be at the table together to figure this out within our communities. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional, especially as it relates to these subgroups who are not doing as well as it relates to their enrollment, recruitment, and also their retention numbers.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you both again for being here. And, I'm seeing all the data and all the thank yous in the chat. I want to say we conservatively feel we have over 200,000 students that qualify for CalFresh, college students. And so I think it's another thing to keep in mind, not just FAFSA, but since you have them in front of you, especially our higher ed partners, have you done CalFresh? One of the things we did is we try to do a full court press in our county before about getting every student that leaves us to do the CalFresh application. But then if they go to Dr. Curry's campus, they have to do it again, because now they're Los Angeles County. They're not Riverside County. Those are those barriers we have to come after together. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to our two amazing leaders, presenters. You can tell this isn't work for them. This is ministry. This is passion. This is what it's their life purpose. I want to thank you for expertise. Thank you all for being here. The recordings and the PowerPoint and additional information will be on the SCED app, as we'll be moving towards the CSAC page. We're just excited you're here, and our next session starts at 10. Breakout session 3 starts at 10:50. So you get a chance to grab something to drink, go to the restroom, and we will see you at session 3. Thank you so much, Deacon Wilson and Dr. Curry. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.